Welcome to the first episode of Series 79, everyone. This series, we are doing things a bit differently and covering a different solo game every week. And this week, it is just me here this whole episode, but I will be diving into the dark fantasy solo RPG called Ironsworn by Sean Tompkin. But before we get into that, here's what to expect in our calls to action. Happy New Year, everyone. We are so glad to have you here with us at the start of 2025. Right now marks our 7th year that we have been working on this show. Back in 2018 in January, I think on the 3rd, Amelia and I first plotted out the format of the show together, and now, 7 years later, we are still going. But we have been so busy this last month, so because of this, we will only have a quick update about our Patreon, as well as our normal patron thank yous and other information on how you can best support the show after this episode. We do also have the announcement that the episodes are going to be recorded throughout the month as well, probably one at a time and probably every week, because that's all we really have time for so far. So we'll see kind of how all of that lines up. So all of that out of the way. Enjoy the show, everyone. Welcome to Character Creation Cast, a show where we discuss and create characters, the best part of role-playing games, with guests using their favorite systems. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan, and this series we are doing things a little bit different as we will be covering a different solo game every week this month. First up is one of the more well-known solo RPGs with a decent amount of character creation, Ironsworn, a dark fantasy RPG of perilous quests. I am here by myself for this episode, so buckle up, everyone. Let's go ahead and get into this, and we will start by discussing what this game is all about.
What's in a game?
So, what are the core concepts of Ironsworn? So the core concept revolves around players taking on the roles of heroes who undertake perilous quests in a dark fantasy setting known as the Ironlands. This game uses a narrative-driven gameplay where players will make decisions, face challenges, and progress through their stories using a combination of role-playing and mechanics such as action rolls, progress tracks, and various moves. It's got a very like PBTA feel to it, only that's like underselling how interesting and intricate everything is. One of the main concepts of the game are the iron vows that players swear and strive to fulfill. This drives their adventures and the character development, which we'll see as we go through kind of what this game all entails. The really interesting thing, this game supports solo play, cooperative play with like 2 to 4 players or something like that, as well as guided play, so like traditional GM and players at the table. So I thought that was a really interesting way to set up this game. I'd always thought of it as Ironsworn is the solo RPG out there, but like it's for group play as well, which is really cool. Speaking of the Ironlands, what sort of setting do you play in? So the Ironlands are divided into 9 distinct regions that we would be kind of exploring. Each of them has its own unique characteristics and challenges. So let's see what they have here. We've got the Barrier Islands, which features things like crashing waves, treacherous currents, jagged rocks, snow-dappled cliffs, ferocious winds, and decaying shipwrecks. And this place is inhabited by sparsely populated by fisher folk and lurking seaborne raiders mainly, so not too populous in the barrier islands. There is the ragged coast, which is narrow fords, rocky shores, trade ships, shipbuilders, raiders, orca schools, and monstrous sea serpents. Lots of interesting stuff along the ragged coast. Settlements are at the ford heads. Memorial stones are also in settlements for like lost sailors and stuff. So a lot of interesting cultural stuff there as well. There is also the Deep Wilds. It features unbroken woodlands, thick canopy, constant rains, ancient trees, streams, and skittering creatures. Living in the Deep Wilds, there are a few Ironlanders. Many are firstborn beings like elves and monstrous beasts. Sounds fun. Let's see. There's the Flooded Lands, which are fetid wetlands, dead trees, sluggish rivers, misty ponds, ghost lights, biting insects, and lurking creatures. So there's some small settlements there on hillocks or stilts. There are fishers living there and peat diggers, probably for peat moss or burning peat for keeping warm and stuff. I don't know. All right. There's also havens, which features rolling hills, rocky bluffs, dense woods, walled settlements, verdant heaths, and wide rivers. So this is also populated by Ironlanders in hilltop or riverside settlements. The winters are long, and there are threats of raiders. The hinterlands is a dense forest, rugged terrain with hunter camps, remote settlements, bird songs, and stalking beasts. The inhabitants in the hinterlands are hunters, trappers, farmers, and various bands. In the Tempest Hills is consisting of stunted forests, howling winds, mist-shrouded waterfalls, mining settlements, and nomad encampments. A lot of nomadic herders, miners, wary giants, and grazing mammoths live there. In the Veiled Mountains, there's a bunch of massive peaks, endless snow, precarious trails, stone cairns, abandoned settlements, and circling wyverns. There are small mining communities that live in the Veiled Mountains, very few Ironlanders, and very harsh winters. And finally, the Shattered Wastes, featuring vast fields of broken ice, deep crevasses, piercing cold, and unnatural horrors. No permanent residents live there. Few explorers. It sounds like a very desolate landscape there. For things that we need to play this game, we do need the following materials. There's some dice, 2 10-sided dice for each player, used as challenge dice. 1 6-sided die for every player to use as the action die. And optionally, you can have another pair of 10-sided dice to use as oracle dice. You have the character sheets and asset cards, so you can print the character sheets for each player, and the asset cards, you can actually get those downloaded at ironswornrpg.com. I did see there is some printed versions of those that you could also order, but I'm assuming that those cost money. You can have some counters or tokens. You're going to want to use those to mark status tracks on your character sheet. You can use pretty much anything you want. You could just mark them on your sheet as well, I imagine. So reference sheets and maps are optional, but those are also available on ironswornrpg.com. They got printed reference sheets for the moves, a blank Ironlands map, stuff like that. You've got the rule book, of course. A journal is good if you're going to be going ahead and playing solo. And, pencils, erasers, whatever. You don't need friends because it's a solo game, but you can play with friends if you really want. Now, Ironsworn has a lot of themes. So what sort of stories and themes is this game meant to explore? It's got, the quests and vows. That's kind of like the main part of the game. You undertake dangerous and significant quests by swearing iron vows. Those vows kind of drive the narrative and the character development. There's themes of heroism and sacrifice, exploration and discovery, of course, survival and hardship, themes of surviving against the elements, scarcity of resources and stuff like that. Community relationships are pretty big in this game. You want to build and maintain relationships with other characters and communities if you want to survive in this world. It explores themes of loyalty, betrayal, and bonds of friendship and family, stuff like that. There's, of course, conflict and combat, mystery and the supernatural, stuff like that. There's a lot of ancient runes and mystical sites and stuff like that. Strange rituals in the world and otherworldly beings adds a lot of elements of mysticism and the supernatural. Of course, there's themes of character growth, personal growth, and transformation, fulfilling your vows, stuff like that. Whether you want to do redemption arcs or revenge arcs or anything in between. It's a very dark fantasy and gritty realism from what I'm seeing. Often has that dark and gritty tone that focuses on the harsh realities of life, loss, despair, and struggling to survive against overwhelming odds. And of course, it's a fantasy world, so myth and legend are huge as well. The Ironlands are steeped in myth and legend with ancient gods, mystical creatures, and powerful artifacts that play significant roles in the narrative. So what do characters do in this game? In Ironsworn, characters engage in quite a few different activities, including like the swearing of the vows. This is something that's going to come up a lot because it is central to the game. Ironsworn is a very interesting concept in this game where you swear a vow to while holding onto some iron, and that basically gives you a pact with like the old gods. Like the iron is like from the earth. It is a connection to the old gods, that sort of stuff. So swearing these vows to complete quests, which drive the narrative and provide personal goals, is a huge part of this game. Exploring the Ironlands, discovering new locations, ancient ruins, and hidden secrets. That's a big part of the game. You fight things. You go fight raiders, wild beasts, supernatural creatures, and other threats. That's another thing that you'll be encountering in this game. Of course, there's a bond system, so you build relationships with other characters and communities to gain allies, support, and resources. You might have a long-term goal that needs an army to accomplish. You won't be able to do it yourself. So getting those communities onto your side is a big part of the game as well. Survival, gathering information for mysteries, and even performing rituals to gain insights and stuff. You can invoke blessings or wield magical powers if you want. And it's dark and gritty, so you're going to be facing moral dilemmas. As Amelia liked to say, she likes playing in that gray area of ethics and values and whatnot. And this game kind of embodies a lot of that philosophy of gaming. You're going to be a lot of moral gray areas in your playthrough. Outside of that, what is unique about the game? I think the most unique thing that I saw when I was going through this is how versatile the game is. The fact that this is a game that you can play either solo or with a few friends cooperatively, or even with a game master, is pretty unique. There's not too many games that allow that sort of flexibility and giving equal weight to each of those options is really interesting. I mean, I know that I will probably try out this game, probably with the character I'm going to be making this episode, for a Patreon actual play solo game for our Patreon this year. So I am very interested to see how that works itself out. But like, we also have the option of maybe Amelia and I playing cooperatively, just the two of us against the game itself, and seeing how that plays. I think that would be really interesting. Maybe I start a solo game and run into her character later, and now it's a cooperative game for a bit. That sounds super cool. The flexibility of the game is really interesting and really unique, and I'm really interested to see kind of where that goes. Now, for the history of this game was first published in 2018 and updated in 2019. There was a lot of official supplements that came out for the game, including in 2018, there was the Ironsworn Lodestar, which is a short reference guide that contains an oracle for character disposition and also alternative starting stats for easier and harder modes of play. Ironsworn Delve came out in 2020. This was the first major expansion that adds additional content to the game, including dungeon crawling mechanics. Then in 2022, there was the Ironsworn Starforged. It was funded in a Kickstarter campaign, and this is a new core rulebook adapting the original Ironsworn system to a science fiction setting. Along with this new setting, there are also new rules, assets, moves, and oracles. And then based on the Starforged system, there's Ironsworn Starforged Sundered Isles. This supplement is an expansion. It just came out last year in 2024. It is an expansion for Starforged with a sailing setting instead of spaceships. So think pirates and whatnot. And it requires the core Ironsworn Starforged rules to play. I had a hard time picking between the base Ironforged game, Starforged, and Sundered Isles, but I figured go with the first game to give a nice taste of what Ironsworn is all about, and see how it goes. So I'm really interested to dive into those other ones, and maybe if my actual play with Ironsworn goes fine, maybe I'll try a Starforged one later, and maybe Sundered Isles. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Now, before we get into the actual character creation, there are some basic terms and concepts that we need to know before we start that. And one of the big things that I had to do a lot of reading on because I didn't quite get it at first was the assets. Assets are a key component of your character. They give you additional options and bonuses when making moves. And some of them actually include their own special moves, which is really interesting. Assets are things like, so there are 4 different types of assets: companions, paths, combat talents, and rituals. So companions are basically an animal companion or an actual character, an NPC companion that you can choose. There's like 10 of them to choose from or something like that in the base game. Paths are basically your kind of career path or like what you're good at. So like a story weaver gives you an advantage with inspiring or enlightening song, poems, or tales. And there's like a right which works on building stuff or all sorts of stuff. There are quite a few paths that you can choose from as well, anywhere from alchemist to herbalist, infiltrator, fortune hunter, loyalist, pretender. It's interesting. and some more advanced ones as well. So when you start the game, you start with 3 different assets, and you can choose any number of them as paths if you want. But some paths are actually locked out from you choosing them at the beginning, and they actually have requirements. Like the Revenant path, once you face death and return to the world of the living, then that unlocks the Revenant path for you to choose when you level up. And we'll get to leveling up at the end of the episode and how that works. But I thought it was really interesting that this is kind of like your background, where you're coming from and what you're kind of good at there. After the paths, there are combat talents. These are basically what you're especially good at in combat. So like archer, you have to have a bow to use the archer talent, of course. But if you wield a bow, when you secure an advantage by taking a moment to aim, choose your approach and add +1. So you can either trust your instincts or line up your shot. And each of those uses different stats to roll with, which is really interesting. And then they level up after a while. All of these assets can level up when you spend into them. So they get just more and more cool as you go on. After the combat talents, there are also rituals, which are basically the magic spells of the system. So, anything from like communion, where you can summon the spirits of the dead, to light bearer, which you can focus on a source of light and capture its essence. And then you can overcome darkness later. That's kind of cool. There is things like ward, where you can walk a wide circle and create a ward in an area and get some bonuses there as well. So there's a lot of different options across those. And your character starts with 3 of them when you're going through. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we're creating our characters as well. But aside from that, I think it was pretty straightforward. Everything else kind of makes sense as we are going through the system. So when we are creating our characters, we'll go through the different stats and what all of that means. Of course, there's also the vows. You have to select 2 different vows when you create your character. One is called the background vow, and this is kind of like the overarching long-term story for your character. This is the thing that you really want to take care of as like a core goal of your character. You will give this a rank of extreme or epic. There's 5 different levels for vows, everywhere from troublesome to epic. So as troublesome is the easiest, dangerous is the next, formidable is right in the middle, extreme is near the end, and epic is the hardest goal and vow that you can kind of make. So extreme or epic means that this is going to be a huge goal that you want to tackle, probably over the course of a campaign, and that might not be something that's viable in a effectively one shot. Then you also have to have an inciting incident and swear an iron vow to that. So that's basically like the more immediate, like what's getting you started on your adventuring path. What's the big thing? Like is one of your elders is sick in the village and you are the only one that can go out and take care of it, or somebody has to, and it just makes sense for you to do so. So you take a vow that you're going to go and find help for this elder before it's too late. So that's something that you could do. And that would be, something that could be dangerous. It could be formidable, or it could just be something that's troublesome, really. And you kind of go from there. And I think the only other concept is that it also includes some world building. So there's some truths that you select about your world. It can be really open-ended, but there is a worksheet that you can work through that lets you kind of figure out what your world is all about. And they say you can go and create the world first before your character, but the normal way it is laid out in the book is create your character and then create a world to kind of fit your character's story. So I think that's the way we are going to do it. Okay, so I'm by myself, so I don't have any additional questions. So shall I make some people? Let's make some people.
Let's make some people.
So first thing that we need is the character sheet. There is an Ironsworn play kit online, so I downloaded that, and I am now ready to create my character. I just need to see what we need to do. So there is a character creation summary on page 47 of the rulebook. And the first thing they ask you to do is to envision your character. Before making your jump into the mechanics of your character, consider their motivations, interests, skills, personality, and weaknesses. It has you start with like 1 or 2 ideas about your background and goals and flesh the character out as you play. And that's fine. But going into this game, not knowing too much about almost anything about it, aside from what we've talked about so far, it was very hard for me to figure out what I wanted to do here. So I said, well, I've got a Beyond the Wall character who's pretty cool. What if I just transplant her into this world and see what happens? This is going to be Elena Swan, who in the Beyond the Wall world is a gifted dilettante who is part of a super rich family in the area. But like, that's not how you start off in this game. So it'll be interesting to see kind of the contrasts as we go there. So, okay. So I've got a person, a young individual with a helping spirit that is, she's got some companions, and she's got a good way with storytelling and stuff like that. So I think that's probably a good place to start. All right. So next up, choose a name for the character. And I think that just makes sense to keep the same name there. So this is going to be Elena Swan. Perfect. Next up, there are 5 stats to populate. The 5 stats get a value between 1 and 3, and you get an array of numbers to divvy out. So let's see what these 5 stats are. First up, there is Edge, which is quickness, agility, and prowess in ranged combat. Heart, which is courage, willpower, empathy, sociability, and loyalty. I'm already thinking that Elena is going to be probably the highest in heart based on these 2 alone. Iron, which is physical strength, endurance, aggressiveness, and prowess in close combat. Shadow, which is sneakiness, deceptiveness, and cunning. And then wits, expertise, knowledge, and observation. Okay, so I am seeing that we start with 5 different numbers, a 3, a 2, a 2, a 1, and a 1. And based on those, I think I'm going to do a 3 in heart, because this character is somebody that is a natural leader, and she is well loved by everybody and tries to get along with everybody. It's a very kid-centric game that we are playing in Beyond the Wall, and I thought having kind of the face character be super relatable and fun to be around was good. And that's what I like to be too, so whatever. Second best thing probably of hers is wits. She's good with knowledge and stuff like that. So I'm going to put a 2 in wits. That makes a ton of sense. Okay, what would be her next best stat? Maybe I'll whittle it down by what she's not good at. She is not sneaky, deceptive, or cunning. Or maybe is she a little cunning? I think she's very straightforward. I think she's... Yeah, I think her shadow is probably going to be 1 in this case. So we'll make shadow 1. Okay, and then that leaves edge and iron. One of them's going to be 1 and one of them's going to be 2. I think she's technically clumsy a bit. So I'm going to make her edge 1. And that means her iron is going to be 2. And she has been known to hold her own in battle, which is cool. So I think that fits. That fits the concept that I'm kind of going for there. So 1 edge, 3 heart, 2 iron, 1 shadow, and 2 wits. Perfect. So next, you get health. Health is representing your current physical condition and stamina. This is from 0 to +5. So health is reduced when you endure harm, which is a special move, and increased when you rest or receive care through moves such as heal or sojourn. So, and if you're at 0 health, scoring a miss when you endure harm puts you at risk of suffering a debility or even dying. So to start, your health track starts at +5, which is the highest it can go. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Perfect. Okay, and then next, what do we have? Spirit. Spirit is your current mental state, ranked from 0 to +5 as well. So this is like your stress meter effectively. So when you endure stress, spirit is reduced. It's increased when you find comfort in companionship, success, or relaxed moments through moves such as make camp or forge a bond. And this is where a lot of those like PBTA kind of references come into play when you're making different moves like this throughout play. And if you're at 0 spirit, scoring a miss when you endure stress puts you at risk of suffering a debility or falling into desolation. So spirit starts off at +5 as well. All right. Next is supply. So this is like an abstract representation of how prepared you are, like including your ammo, your food, your water, and general upkeep and stuff like that. This is also ranked from 0 to +5. And instead of like tracking a detailed inventory, you consider most of your mundane gear that is covered under supply. So I imagine you have basic weapons, basic armor, like basic camping supplies, stuff like that. And then your supply is decreased when you make the undertake a journey move. And you might also reduce supply as a narrative cost when you face hardships as an outcome of other moves. So like in the face danger move to ford a wild river, you might lose some gear as a result of a weak hit or a miss. So that's interesting. Supply is increased when you gather provisions through moves such as resupply. So you can see there's a ton of different moves, which really is the core of why this game works in solo play. So this also is ranked from 0 to +5. So I'm going to set your supply track to +5. It says you and your allies share the same supply value while you travel together. So if we were in a group doing this, we would all have the same value starting at +5. And when each of us raises or lowers the supply track, each of us also makes the adjustment. So it's a group-wide move. That's really interesting. All right, so +5 across the board for each of those to start. So that's cool. There is also the concept of momentum. Momentum represents how you are faring in your quests. It is gained and lost through moves. If you have positive momentum, you are building on your successes and ready to make decisive moves. If you have negative momentum, you have suffered setbacks and your quest is in jeopardy. So you have a momentum track on the left side of your character sheet. It looks like it's from -6 to +10. And your max momentum starts at +10 and is reduced by 1 for every marked debility. So I can write in here +10 for the max. And it also has a reset, and the momentum reset starts at +2. If you have 1 debility marked, your reset is +1. If you have more than 1 debility marked, your reset is 0. So my reset is +2 to start. Perfect. And then to start out, your current momentum is set to +2. And as we said, maximum is +10 and whatnot. So I'm going to add +2 here for my current momentum. Now, the meat of the characters, the vows. When you swear a vow, you give it a rank between those 5 that we mentioned, recorded on the sheet. Then you use a vow to track the vow progress track to mark when you reach a milestone. So should start your first session with 2 vows, a long-term goal, and an immediate situation, which is your inciting incident. And there is going to be quest starters in Chapter 4, called Your World. That is going to be a place where you can get some ideas for vows, and then Chapter 5, Vows and Encounters. So we can check that out, I think, later. There's also bonds. As you build relationships and complete quests, you create bonds. You should start your first session with up to 3 background bonds. So let's see. Make a note of the people or communities you share bonds with and mark up to 3 ticks on your bond progress track. You learn more about your first session and your starting bonds on page 183. So I can go and check those out later as well. Dibilities do not come into play at character creation because you start with no dibilities. As we go through the quests, we can get dibilities like mentioned before. There are also conditions that you can get as you go through your quests, not really applicable to character creation here. And there are also banes. Banes are permanent, like maimed or corrupted. They forever impact your character through the momentum penalty, and more importantly, through the narrative impact of being maimed or corrupted. So that's something to keep in mind during play. And then there are burdens as well. Burdens are a result of life-changing experiences that leave you bound to quests. Clearing a burden can only be accomplished by resolving the quest. When you're cursed or tormented, you should consider the physical or emotional manifestations of these conditions. You have walked the lands beyond death or suffered visions of your greatest fears. What signs do you bear, etc., etc.? So all abilities should be unmarked during character creation. Now, another big portion of character creation is the assets. You get 3 assets to start, and we talked about them before: the companions, paths, combat talents, and rituals. So Elena Swan is somebody that has she's got a main companion. It's a friend, put big quotes around that. That is the fisherman's daughter in town, and they had a tryst in the past and still do. And now this friend, her name is Sylvia, travels with Elena and the group, and they are pretty much inseparable. So for now, I think that's a potential companion right there. There is a kindred companion that you can choose. Another big feature of Elena is her Feyhound. It's a more magical, like, dog with antlers, and it's green, I guess. It's pretty cool. And another big feature of Elena's is her panda ferret that she has as a familiar. She cast a ritual at one point and got a panda ferret. I thought that was kind of cool, but do not have any panda ferret companions in the assets, unfortunately. But they do have a path called Animalkin, and that lets you actually upgrade and add animal assets for less experience going forward if you level that up. So that might be a potential option as well. Now, other things I was considering is, where was it? The path of the storyteller, I believe it was. Story Weaver. So this is the one that can sing write poetry or even tell tales and stuff like that. Somebody that's very charismatic. Feels like this would be wonderful to have. And Elena is also gifted with the lyre. She's got a unique, like, ornate lyre that she carries around and plays for her companions. And I thought that Story Weaver would fit very well there. But now we're up to potentially 4 things that we could get as assets, and we can only get 3 to start. So I think the most important one is going to be the Kindred. So the Kindred is a friend that stands by you. Okay, that makes sense. So this friend's name is Sylvia. I forget what her last name is, but that's okay. And when you get an option, you have to select one of the 3 abilities there. And the ones that we have here are the friend is skilled. When you make a move outside of combat, aided by your companion's expertise, add +1. That sounds pretty good. There's also Shieldkin, which is, this is the expertise that's listed. Shieldkin, when you clash or battle alongside your companion, or when you face danger against an attack by standing together, add +1. And there's also Bonded. Oh, wait, no, I see. So the expertise is defined as part of the skilled thing. And then there is Shieldkin, which adds additional stuff in combat, or Bonded. And once you mark a bond with your companion, add +1 when you face desolation in their presence. I think Bonded sounds more in the future. I think skilled makes the most sense to start off with for Sylvia. Now, what would be my companion's expertise? Now, she's the fisherman's daughter, so fishing, and boats and stuff, right? So, like, I guess it's pretty much anything, right? So fishermaning, I don't know. And that would make sense to include, like, knots for the boats and for the fishing lines and the nets and stuff like that, and all sorts of stuff along those lines. I know in Beyond the Wall, she's also a rogue class, and she has like the abilities to sneak and stuff like that. But like fishing is, and rope works is kind of her biggest thing, like finding directions and stuff like that. So I'm thinking this expertise is abstract enough where you can apply it to a few different situations as long as it makes sense to do so. Okay, so I've got a companion, and her name is Sylvia. Let's see. And I think I want to start with a hound. So my hound's name is Veery, which is short for viridescent. And Veery is a fluffy hound of sorts. And we're going to say she's green, or he? I can't remember. I think Veery is masculine in our game. Pretty sure. So Veery, the hound. I also get to choose one thing here for Veery's abilities between sharp. When you gather information using your hound's keen senses to track your quarry or investigate a scene, add +1 and take +1 momentum on a hit. There's also ferocious, which means that when you strike or clash alongside your hound to score a hit, inflict +1 harm or take +1 momentum. There's also loyal. When you endure stress in the company of your hound, add +1 to the roll. So you're better at getting, like, all of these are really good. And I think Elena is probably going to start off trying to avoid combat as much as possible. So I really want to go with sharp on this one. I mean, ferocious makes sense to be a little easier to survive, but like investigating stuff and tracking things and whatnot, that seems like the approach that Elena would take is being a little easier there. Now, the next thing I want probably is a path. I think probably animal kin is where I was landing on. Whenever you make a move to pacify, calm, control, aid, or fend off an animal or beast companion, you can add +1 and take +1 momentum on a hit. So as we understand, momentum, the higher it goes, the closer you are to finishing your quest, I guess. So we want to get closer to that +10. So like this will help with that as well. Plus, this will let me get another upgrade for Viri or even gain a new animal companion later. And I think that works really well. And then at the end of this animal kin path, I can actually even reroll dice in combat when using the beast companion and whatnot, and on a hit take even more momentum. So there's like a lot of good potential there. So with that in mind, where do I put my assets on this character sheet? Let's see, that's progress tracks, Oracle worksheet, blank Ironlands map. I think this game is meant to utilize the assets as cards. So they do have sheets that you cut out, and then you would use those as different cards. You can print these out and cut them out and utilize them as cards, or get them printed for yourself through the website. But I think I want to make note on my character sheet somewhere for my assets. Maybe I'll just put it up here. That'll be fine. So Hound, Kindred, and Animal Kin. Perfect. Okay, so we've got our assets. Next, let's see. That was the asset abilities as well. Okay. And then for experience, the track starts at 0, of course, and as we pass quests, we get experience to add to that, and there are some other moves that also will add experience. And then we spend it. We'll talk about that later. For characterization, it just starts as unmarked. Okay, so for equipment then, this is a pretty abstract, non-mechanical benefits for your character. It really, you probably start off with cheap, mundane gear. I mean, this is Elena Swan. It is my world and my character. So I'm going to say that she's just got her basic starting gear from Beyond the Wall, which does include some fun stuff. Where is the gear on here? If it is anywhere. So since gear is not exactly super important to the game, and mechanically it is not on the character sheet, at least the one that's given here. So I'm going to go ahead and type my gear in separately here. And I think she comes with a dark teal cloak. She has a traveling dress. She'll have, what else? Oh, a lyre, of course. She might not be super great at it currently, but like I think that she'll grow into it. She's got, what else? What else do we want her to have? Oh, basic sword and shield, and like leather armor for now. I think she's got chain armor in the game, but like she's also rich, so like whatever. Yeah, so she's got some basic stuff like that, and then the rest of it's kind of in the supply stat itself. So like all of her traveling gear and like backpack and rations and all that sort of fun stuff is all there. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. It says keep it simple. Okay. And then in your first session, you envision your current situation. Something has happened or is about to happen, which puts you on a path of the Ironsworn. This is your inciting incident. Make it personal. So give it teeth. It's not a situation you can walk away from. You must set things right. So that's interesting. And that also makes me think of the background in the background vow. And I think that could be a really interesting vow. So I think it might be extreme or epic. My background vow is going to be find a way to keep the village safe for good. And like in Beyond the Wall, the whole point of the campaign that we are on is explore the surrounding areas and make right the wrongs that are in the surrounding areas, get rid of the dangers, and try to find what's going to be threatening the village and stop it. I mean, we already stopped an undead horde from attacking the village, and we just found out that there is also a dragon in the area, as well as a necropolis to explore and figure out what is going on there and why are undead armies coming from the necropolis now. So there's a lot of potential in a game like Ironsworn for similar sort of shenanigans from happening in the world that would be threatening a village. So really find a way to keep the village safe for good. Sounds like an epic quest, 5-tier quest of we need to find a way to either well supply the village, get the proper people there to protect it, fortify it, or get the area cleared out around the outside and fix things there. So I think that's interesting. I'll figure out the less epic vow later once we figure out what to do with the world, because now that we have all of those, we can go to the world building. Let's see. Create your world. So if you are playing in the Ironlands or a similar setting, we go through the truths exercise, and that's what I have here, Ironsworn Truths Workbook. So let's see about truths about the old world. Let's see. The savage clans called the Skald invaded the kingdoms of the old world. Our armies fell, most were killed or taken into slavery. Those who escaped set sail aboard anything that would float. After an urgent month-long voyage, the survivors made landfall upon the Ironlands. Okay, so that's kind of the descendants of the people. There's also the sickness. I don't think I want to deal with the sickness in my game. And then the old world could no longer sustain us. We were too large in number. We had felled the forests. Our crops withered in the barren ground. Cities and villages overflowed with desperate, hungry people. Petty kings battled for scraps. We cast our fate to the sea and found the Ironlands, a new world, a fresh start. That one sounds interesting. So this is like, at some point, we kind of said, okay, hey, we need to kind of do something here. We need to move to a new place. So I think the old world can no longer sustain us is what I'm going to choose as a truth of this world. So the quest starter says, decades ago, the Exodus ended. Since then, no ships have sailed here from the old world until now. Word comes from a single ship newly arrived across the vast ocean, grounded on the rocks of the Barrier Islands. When you hear the name of the ship, you swear to uncover the fate of its passengers. Why is it so important to you? So that's potential quest starter there. I don't think I want to go with that one for my vow. Okay, for iron, Let's see what this says. The imposing hills and mountains of the Ironlands are rich in iron ore. Most prized of all is the star-forged black iron. That sounds pretty cool. Let's see. There's also the weather is bleak. Rain and wind sweep in from the ocean. The winters are long and bitter. One of the first settlers complained only those made of iron dare live in this foul place unless our land was named. Oh, so that we're naming the Ironlands. Okay, that's interesting. Okay. Inscrutable metal pillars are found throughout the land. They are iron gray and smooth as river stone. Interesting. No one knows their purpose. Some say they are as old as the world. Some, such as the iron priests, worship them and swear vows upon them. Most make the warning sign and hurry along their way when they happen across one. The pillars do not tarnish, or even the sharpest blade cannot mark them. Oh, that sounds cool. Okay, I do love a good, weird mystery, alien-like pillar. I think I'm going to go with the inscrutable metal pillars are found throughout the land. That's why it's called the Ironlands. Okay. Quest starter, your dreams are haunted by visions. Your dreams are haunted by visions of a pillar which stands in an unfamiliar landscape. What do you see? Why are you sworn to seek it out? That's pretty interesting. Let's see. Legacies. We are the first humans to walk these lands. Okay. Other humans sailed here from the old world untold years ago, but all that is left of them is a savage feral people we call the Broken. Is their fate to become our own? Before the Ironlanders, before even the firstborn, another people lived here. Their ancient ruins are found throughout the Ironlands. Hey, between the first and last one, we are the first humans here. So like we're finally in this harsh, potentially area. Or I really do love ancient ruins as well. So I think I'm going to go with the ancient ruins. Some miners uncovered an ancient underground rune. Thereafter, the people of the settlement are haunted by strange dreams. The runes call to them, they say. Several have disappeared in that dark ancient place, including someone important to you. Oh, that could be an interesting immediate quest starter. Find that somebody important. Okay, communities. We are few in number in this accursed land. Most rarely have contact with anyone outside of our own small steading or village, and strangers are viewed with deep suspicion. Not too big in that one. We live in communities called circles. These are settlements ranging in size from a steading with a few families to a village of several hundred. Some circles belong to nomadic folk. Some powerful circles might include a cluster of settlements. We trade and sometimes feud with other circles. Okay. I'm leaning towards that one so far. And then we have forged the Ironlands into a home. Villages within the havens are connected by well-trod roads. Trade caravans travel between settlements in the havens and those in outlying regions. Even so, much of this land is untamed. That might be, I think that's the one I want. I want a nice, like, settled area, I think, in the Ironlands. Let's see. Now we're talking about the leaders. Leadership is as varied as the people. Some communities are governed by the head of a powerful family, or they have a council of elders who make decisions and settle disputes. In others, the priests hold sway. For some, it is duels in the circle that decide. Maybe. Yeah, I do like the varied potential for leaderships there. Each of our communities has its own leader is another option called an overseer, getting Fallout vibes there. Every 7th spring, the people affirm their current overseer or choose a new one. Some overseers wear the iron circlet reluctantly, while others thirst for power and gain it through schemes and threats. Let's see what else. Numerous clan chiefs rule over petty domains. Most are intent on becoming the one true king. Their squabbles will be our undoing. I do like the first one where leadership is varied out there. Let's see. You have vivid recurring dreams of an Ironland city. It has strong walls, bustling markets, and a keep on a high hill, and so many people. Nowhere in the Ironlands does such a city exist. In your dreams, you are the ruler of the city. Somehow, no matter how long it takes, you must make this vision a reality. I don't want to do that. Okay, defense. Here in the Ironlands, supplies are too precious, and the lands are too sparsely populated to support organized fighting forces. When a community is threatened, the people stand together to protect their own. Okay. The wardens are our soldiers, guards, and militia. They serve their communities by standing sentry, patrolling surrounding lands, and organizing defenses in times of crisis. Most have strong ties to their communities. Others, called free wardens, are wandering mercenaries you hire on to serve a community or protect caravans. And then our warbands are rallied to strike at our enemies or defend our holdings. Though not nearly as impressive as the armies that once marched across the old world, these forces are as well trained and equipped as their communities can manage. The banners of the warbands are adorned with depictions of the old world history and Ironland victories. I think I'm going to go with the first one here, where the communities protect themselves. That sounds interesting. Let's see. There is mysticism. Some still find comfort in the old ways. They call on mystics to divine the fortune of their newborn or ask them to perform rituals to make or to invoke a bountiful harvest. Others act out of fear against those who they suspect of having power. However, most folk believe true magic, if it ever existed, is lost to us now. No. Let's see. Magic is rare and dangerous, but those few who wield the power are truly gifted. Okay. And then magic courses through this land as the rivers flow through the hills. The power is there for those who choose to harness it, and even the common folk often know a helpful ritual. I do. Okay, thinking of Beyond the Wall, I'm going to go magic is rare and dangerous. I do like it being rare and kind of like tough to get into. I don't want everybody wielding magic, that at least. Okay. Quest starter, you have heard stories of someone who wields true power. They live in an isolated settlement far away. Who told you of this mystic? Are they feared or respected? Why do you swear to seek them out? Yeah, I don't need those. Any, don't think. Okay, how about religion in here? A few Ironlanders still make signs or mumble prayers out of habit or tradition, but most believe the gods long ago abandoned us. Let's see. The people honor old gods and new. In this harsh land, a prayer is a simple but powerful comfort. And then there is our gods are many. They make themselves known through manifestations and miracles. Some say they even secretly walk among us. The priests convey the will of the gods and hold sway over many communities. Let's see. I like the thought of like gods being physically real and whatnot, but like not the whole this automatically gives priests like the edge in terms of leadership and everything. So I think I might go in the middle there. The people honor old gods and new. Yeah. And like are they really there? Maybe. But maybe it's more rare, right? I think that might be the case that we'll go with there. Okay. All right. Next, looks like there's only three other truths we need to figure out here. The firstborn. So the firstborn have passed into legend. Some say the remnants of the old tribes still dwell in deep forests or high mountains. Most believe they were never anything more than a myth. I think the firstborn are like elves and stuff. So let's see. The firstborn live in isolation and are fiercely protective of their own lands. Okay. Or the firstborn holds sway in the Ironlands. The elves of the deep forest and the giants of the hills tolerate us and even trade with us for now. Ironlanders fear the day they decide we are no longer welcome here. I like that one. I like the potential to have allies with elves and giants and stuff. And the fact that they're still there, it makes it much more fantastical. That sounds pretty cool. Okay. Beasts. The beasts of old are nothing but legend. A few who travel in the deep forest and high mountains return with wild tales of monstrous creatures, but they are obviously delusional. No such things exist. Nope. Monstrous beasts stalk the wild areas of the Ironlands. Sure, I like that one. What's this next one? Beasts of all sorts roam the Ironlands. They dwell primarily in the reaches, but range into the settled lands to hunt. There, they often prey on cattle, but attacks on travelers, caravans, or even settlements are not uncommon. So, I think monstrous beasts stalk the wild areas of the Ironlands. Sounds good. Like very Final Fantasy-esque there. And finally, horrors. Nothing but stories to frighten children. So no horrors, I guess. Next we are wary of dark forests and deep waterways, for monsters lurk in those places. In the depths of the long night, when all is wreathed in darkness, only fools venture beyond their homes. And then finally, the dead do not rest in the Ironlands. At night, we light torches, scatter salt, and post sentries at the gate. It is not enough. They are coming. Ugh. Okay, so that sounds like how horrifying. I think dark forests and deep waterways sound frightening. Yeah, I think we're going to go that way. Let's see. Quest starter. You bear the scars of an attack by a horror. What was it? Are those scars physical, emotional, or both? How do you seek to make yourself whole again? Interesting. Okay. So all of these also have like a blank bunch of lines you can create your own truth on, but I don't think I wanted to do that this first time around. So I think that paints a really interesting picture. And honestly, I think my second more immediate thing is a friend went missing. Let's see, in the mines. So find my friend that went missing in the mines is going to be my second vow, and I'm going to just say it's dangerous. I don't think it's going to be more than dangerous there. Okay, so I've got my 2 vows. I've got the truths of the world. Let's see. I've got kind of let's see, give yourself background bonds now. Okay, so now we've got background bonds. It says page 36, but I just want to see. So background bonds. These may be to a community or an individual. You do not need to make the forge a bond move for the starting bonds. Mark a tick for each bond on your character sheet, 1 tick per bond, and make note of them. So, all right, so I start with 3 bonds. I see it's just boxes, right? So I've got 3 bonds on there. That's interesting. And make note of them, I guess. So I'm going to have a bond with Sylvia, bond with, and I don't know if you have like more than one, if you can have more than one. And Elena comes from Swanholm, which is a small fishing community, where Elena's grandmother is kind of like into kind of rich and got her fortune off of like winery, like growing grapes and making wines and stuff like that, as well as like helping this community be safe and whatnot. So I think Swanholm makes a lot of sense there. And what would be my friend that I would be looking for in the mines? So this is probably, I'm going to guess one of the other characters that are part of my Beyond the Wall campaign, maybe. Or I could just go with my character's grandmother. We'll just say my character has a bond with her grandmother. So we got 3 bonds there. That sounds good. Okay, and you can actually, it looks like you can hold on to them until you you can hold on to them until later. So I'm not sure which friend of mine is in the mines, but I can probably figure that out in play. And it tells you to kind of limit the scope, up the stakes, make it universal if you're playing with a group, giving it a ticking clock. So I think we checked all those boxes. The friend's not going to come back on their own, most likely, and it's personal because it's my friend. So I think that ticks all the boxes for an inciting incident, and that's it. That's character creation for Ironsworn. I've got Elena Swan here. She, her pronouns. Who is an animalkin who has a hound and a friend, a kindred companion named Sylvia, who is good at fishing and being on a fishing boat, stuff like that. We are in Swanholm, which is part of the Ironlands. I don't know what area of the Ironlands it's in, but that'll be interesting to kind of figure out as well. And yeah, a lot of cool stuff to play with here. Okay, so so how did things go? The character sheets were pretty straightforward. The vows are front and center. The stats and the momentum are flanking everything. And the Dibilities are at the bottom there and experience at the top. It's pretty simple. Does not give you any room for writing down what the bonds are, what your gear is, or any of your assets. So it's assumed, I think those are going to be kind of like supplemental things on the side or stuff you will make note of in your notebook. So this gives you kind of everything you need to know to play the game, which is fine. It's not a bad layout for a character sheet, and it's got it's recognizable, and it's got what's most important sitting there right in front of it for you. So really, nothing I can really complain about there, aside from the few things that I had to keep track of in completely custom boxes on the copyright page of this play kit. But whatever, that's fine. How did character creation stack up to other systems? It was pretty straightforward. There's a lot of malleability here that we could have dove into. There was a lot of free form, like the vows are pretty open-ended, whatever those could be, which kind of gives us insight into what the game's going to be kind of like, right? Everything else was just like, hey, just throw these numbers into the places and go. And it really is that fast. It's if you didn't have to create a world or anything, it just goes. And the hardest part probably is figuring out your character's concept and then picking those assets. I did have trouble at first finding the assets. They are not in the book. You have to get the asset supplement in order to get through that. So yeah, that was kind of weird, but once I found those, it wasn't too bad. It's just makes it a little harder for electronic only keeping track of this stuff. And then let's see, how would this story play out? Well, I think we'll see. I think I want to play this character. I want to see kind of where this goes. I want to save my friend. And see if there's any progress I can make towards making the village safe. So I'm very curious to kind of how that would play out. How I want to play it out is gain more bonds with my my good friend Sylvia, and probably go down a like romance plot with her while trying to save and keep safe Swanholm, and see if my grandmother will be able to help us out financially as we go. I guess we'll see kind of how that all would play out in this sort of world. And that's it for those. For now, we can take it up a level and talk about advancement.
Take it up a level. Take it up a level.
So how does a character advance and what happens mechanically? So when you fulfill a vow, you gain experience, and the amount of experience is based on the rank of the quest between 1 and 5. So like I said, troublesome, you only get 1 experience. Dangerous vows give you 2. Formidable gives you 3. Extreme gives you 4, and epic gives you 5. Now, what's nice about that is you will use those to spend into things. There's also some assets like the Bannersworn that provide bonus experience when we fulfill a vow. So there's other ways to get XP. But when you focus on your skills, receive training, find inspiration, earn a reward, or gain a companion, you can spend 3 experience to add a new asset or 2 experience to upgrade an existing asset. So that should be interesting. And when you spend experience to add or upgrade assets, you need to envision how your recent experiences and fulfilled vows have led to those new abilities. This is no learning about sailing when you are in a dungeon. I know Amelia says that all the time, and I think this game reinforces that significantly. And of course, this narrative justification helps kind of integrate the new abilities into your character story. And as a solo game, you're kind of justifying the addition of this new stuff. And you could probably sway your experience to a future asset that you want, as long as the dice take you in that direction. And it's really that simple. You gain new assets, you upgrade your old assets, you get more powerful that way. Your health spirit supply will vary back and forth. I'm not sure if your stats increase at all. I didn't really see anything about that, but there might be some assets that will boost those along the way as well. So a lot of interesting stuff you can do there for solo campaign play, which is really cool. And that's all I have. This was really interesting. Thank you all so much for joining me for the very first of our solo RPG series of episodes, starting with Ironsworn. And thank you to everybody for listening. Please join us next week for another flavor of the Ironsworn system. I wanted to see kind of how the different systems stacked against each other a bit, so it might be a little faster than this episode. But we are going to tackle the game called Elegy, a solo vampiric RPG by Miracle M, and we'll see if I can rope Amelia into that recording as well, because I think she would thoroughly enjoy that. Until then, thanks so much, everyone. Call to action.
Yeah, like that.
Okay, I really enjoyed the character creation in Ironsworn. The truths was really interesting, and I just realized that I am having banter based off of my own experience from just recording this not even 20 minutes ago. So really, you got my thoughts in the episode. What am I supposed to say here? I don't know. Either way, fun game. I really want to try it out. I really want to try out the other versions of this game, for especially the sci-fi version, Starforged, as well as the piratey open seas version, Sundered Isles. It'd be really interesting to kind of see what the differences are there. But before we let you go for the day, we do have calls to action. First up, if you haven't checked out our Patreon or even our Discord, please do so. We've got stickers. We got so many stickers. We would love to send you some stickers at the $10 and up level. And you'll also get some C3, custom C3 dice, as well as personalized thank you cards at the $5 and up levels, and some bonus chit chat episodes that are exclusive to our $1 and up patrons. So all of our paying patrons will get bonus chit chat episodes, which may include video versions of those episodes from time to time. And even bonus outtakes and other periodic information will be there for all of our patrons, including the free patrons. And this will probably also include a future newsletter once we have a chance to get that back up and running. You can check all of this out at patreon.com/charactercreationcast, or just join us in discussing the show and anything related to RPGs or just having fun in our Discord at discord.charactercreationcast.com. In addition to all of that, we do like to thank our current patrons every single episode. Your support truly helps out a great deal. So getting into that right now, starting with DJG, aka Tigranosaurus, Eric Ponce, and Daryl Holiday II, you all rock. Thank you. We appreciate your support. Shabim Cabal, The Shyest Barbarian, and Benjamin Sweeney, thank you. Rob Fletcher, Kevin Brown, and Tentacle Duck, you shouldn't have, but we are so glad you did. John Adamus, A3 Sketchpad, and Cole McCallum, we are so grateful to all of you. Thank you. Carlos Salazar, Eric S., and Ian Partmeyer, we are also grateful to all of you. Thanks. Liam G., Brian Colm, and Garden GM, you're the best. Thank you. Tanglefoot, Blue Kryptonite, and Danny, many thanks to all of you. Thanks to Nicole Trainer, Liam Murray, and Kenning, so glad to have you backing us. Brian Kurtz, Marky Fair, and Drew Owen, thank you for your continued support. And finally, a very special thank you to our newest patron, Oz. We are incredibly appreciative of your support, and we will get your goodie bag out to you very soon. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of our future patrons. This is truly where we need your help right now. Our Patreon currently is getting closer, but doesn't quite cover our operating costs every month between the podcast costs and the Patreon rewards. If we get one or two more campaign level folks, we will get there. And any more than that will help us sustain the show even more. If you can't afford to do so, feel free to sign up for the free tier to get those exclusive updates. That would mean the world to us. Our community is pretty great. The patrons have been a huge part of making it an absolutely beautiful place. So check it out at patreon.com/charactercreationcast and help us out. Well, that's all that we have for today's episode. We are going to be getting into another game next week. Next week's game is going to be Elegy, a solo vampiric RPG that utilizes the Ironsworn system of sorts, a little modified version of that. So I'm really curious what that's going to be like. But until then, take care, everyone. Stay safe, drink some water, and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time. Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter and Bluesky at CreationCast, or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Boelter, and I can be found on Twitter and Bluesky at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter and Bluesky at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Boelter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, exclusive merch, and much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.